Donald Trump's approval rating continues to drop down to 37% over the weekend. And you'll notice on this graph that we have that when Donald Trump came into office, his approval rating was quite low already. It dipped in mid-February, and then it rebounded in early March. The approve line, of course, the lighter green line on the bottom, if you're looking at this chart with me, rebounding in early March, but then falling off of a cliff precipitously. And this is from the Gallup presidential tracking poll. This is based on a 3-day rolling average. And sometimes you'll hear, oh, Drudge is linking to Rasmussen. I got to go into my Alex Jones voice when I even talk about Drudge or Rasmussen. And it says this today, or there's an isolated NBC Wall Street Journal poll that had this approval rating yesterday. Gallup has been doing this the same way for decades with consistent methodology. And here's where context helps us understand how bad 37%. We're basically 2 months, 60 days into the presidency. March 20th, Trump inaugurated on January 20th. Many presidents have had at different points of their presidencies lower approval ratings than 37%. For example, George W. Bush got down to 25% at one point. Bill Clinton was down to 37%. George H.W. Bush down to 29%. Reagan hit 35%. Obama, not really on this list because his lowest throughout his 8 years was 40%. But this is the first time in the last 70 years that a president has been this low at this point in their first term. Check out the comparison as to where other presidents were 60 days into office. Jimmy Carter had 75% approval 60 days into office. Ronald Reagan had 60% approval 60 days into office. George H.W. Bush, 56%. Bill Clinton, 53%. George W. Bush, 58%. Obama, 63%. And Donald Trump, as you notice here, 37% 60 days into office. You know what the real shock is to me, Pat? More than 1 out of 3 Americans approves of the job that Trump is doing. That's the stunner. If you randomly select 3 people from the U.S., of course, it'd be influenced by, well, what state are you grabbing them from or whatever. But big picture, out of 3 random people in the U.S., more than 1 thinks Trump is doing a good job, to which the obvious response should be, what is Trump doing that you approve of?
And I think most presidents would look at those numbers and think, all right, I have to be less bombastic. I have to act more presidential, maybe be more moderate. But I think he rationalizes not doing any of those changes by saying, I have this base of supporters. They're going to be with me no matter what. And it was good enough to get me elected the first time. Maybe it will work again.
Well, we're going to see how big or small that base is, right? Because as the numbers go from 45 to 42 to 40 to 37, how big is the base that will stick with Trump, as he said, even if he shot people on Fifth Avenue? Relevant question. What's the impact of a 37% approval rating, 70-year low, 60 days into office, and why does it matter? It matters because you have a Republican House and Senate and mostly Republican governors. And if Donald Trump's approval rating doesn't recover, you may start to see Republican elements jumping ship. Now, I want to give a caveat, and I've been doing this increasingly because I think it's relevant. If Donald Trump being in the White House will provide Republicans cover so that they can push their legislative agenda through, as they've been doing, and we've been covering the Republican bills, Republicans may just allow Trump to continue. I think that what will make Republicans publicly jump ship from the Trump train, Pat, would be if they need to in order to help their own reelection chances, either in 2018 or 2020. Even if they disagree with Trump, as long as they can have the media mostly pay attention to what Trump is doing and pass their insane bills, they're probably happy to just do that.
Right, but a lot of these Republicans have to go to these town halls now and hear from their constituents, and they're very upset with what's going on. And sometimes the Republicans will concede the point that they want to see Trump's tax returns, or that there may be something to these whole Russian investigations.
Yeah, but when it comes to a vote, like they'll say, oh, we should see the tax returns. A vote then is cast as to whether to try to push the tax returns public. Not a single Republican votes in favor of it.
That's the exact point I was going to make.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, sorry. I preempted Pat there. So I don't know. Where do you see the approval rating going? There's people who say, David, it's going to stay between 37 and 45, and he'll have a shot at re-election just like Bush did with a roughly 45, 46% approval rating. Others keep emailing me saying, David, it's going into the 20s.
It's really hard to predict because so much of it is determined by the events that go on within his presidency, and
Yeah.
so much of that you can't control if there's some big travesty.
We'll be following it. I don't think 37% is the low, but I'm not in the camp that's sure it'll drop below 25 because I think that the I'll support Trump even if he shoots people on Fifth Avenue contingent may be bigger than some people are giving credit for.